Good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss the ischemic heart disease. Uh, in this session, we will discuss the angina pectoris. It is one of the important condition which occurs due to the ischemia. So, myself, Dr. S. K. Sutrakar, Department of Pathology. Let us start. If we go through the definition, the ischemic heart disease, it is also called as coronary heart disease, and in this basically there is a reduced blood flow occur due to the occlusion of the arteries which supplies blood to the heart. So this is the main pathology. The occlusion of the artery is the main pathology. So this occlusion lead to the ischemia. If we go through the causes of this condition, around 90% of cases we will see there is a formation of atherosclerotic plaque which occlude the lumen, and because of that occlusion the ischemia result. And other causes of the ischemia, cardiac ischemia, may also occur due to the increased demand, as it is seen in the increased heart rate and hypertension, or it may be due to diminished blood volume, as it is seen in hypotension or shock, or it may be due to the diminished oxygen carrying capacity, because this condition is due to anemia or carbon monoxide poisoning, or diminished oxygenation, which occurs basically seen in the infiltrative disease of the lungs, especially the pneumonia or congestive heart failure. So these are the few causes of ischemic heart disease. If we compare the two conditions, the ischemia or hypoxia, there is a little bit difference between these two conditions. In the ischemia, there is a complete block of the blood supply, and this block is basically due to the thrombus or atherosclerotic plaque, or this block may be due to the vasospasm. But in case of hypoxia, the oxygen saturation is basically the main problem, which is basically fall below the 90%. So the cause of this hypoxia may be respiratory failure, dyspnea, pulmonary emboli, or pneumothorax. So these are the few causes which can cause the hypoxia. If we go through the mechanism of ischemic injury, this blockage of the vessel basically lead to the decreased oxygen supply and result in decreased oxidative phosphorylation, and this decrease in the oxidative phosphorylation result in decreased production of the ATP. Once the level of ATP decreases, there is a failure of sodium potassium ATPases, due to which the sodium potassium ATP pumps they fail, and there is accumulation of lot of electrolytes as well as water within the cell, and this result in swelling of the endoplasmic reticulum and cellular swelling. Apart from this, when the ATP level fall too much, there is a shift from oxidative phosphorylation to the anaerobic respiration, and in the anaerobic respiration the ATP production is less and the acid production is more. So there is a decrease in the glycogen level, increase in the lactic acid, which decreases the pH, and because of decrease in the pH result in the clumping of the nuclear material or chromatin. Another important event which can occur due to the decrease in the ATP is the detachment of the ribosome, which result in decrease in the protein synthesis. So this is the main mechanism of ischemia, which can lead to the various problems. If we know that these conditions may be reversed up to 30 seconds, and so up to the 30 second this ischemia is reversible, or it is a reversible type of cell injury. More than 30 minutes. Reversible is 30 minutes, and irreversible cell injury, when the ischemia is prolonged more than 30 minutes, it lead to the formation of death of the cells. If we go through the pathogenesis, there are various risk factors for this. We can see the main pathology is the atherosclerosis. It is seen in the 90% of cases, as we have seen previously. And most of the risk factors which are very common in this condition are hyperlipidemia, hypertension, smoking, toxins, hemodynamic factors, immune reactions, and viruses. These all can lead to the endothelial cell dysfunction or injury. So once the endothelial cells they are injured, there is a leakage of low density lipoprotein from the blood to the intima, and this leakage simultaneously there is recruitment of the monocyte from the blood to the intima, and this monocyte become, now it is called as macrophage when it enters into the intima, and this macrophage they basically engulf this low density lipoprotein, and this lipid uptake by these macrophages result in the formation of foam cells. So we can see in the diagram that there is a foam cells which contain lot of lipid droplets, and these macrophages basically they produce a lot of cytokines and growth factors, and these growth factors and cytokines basically stimulate the media, and this result in proliferation of and recruitment of the smooth muscles as well as the proliferation of the smooth muscles, which basically move to the intima. So this once they are moving into the intima, they will form a fibrous cap over this atheromatous plaque, and this result in the atheroma formation. So maximum the event which takes place in the intima, along with the media where, from where the smooth muscles they used to from the media basically these smooth muscles they used to recruit in the intima. So these are the events which can take place. So these events as they start as early as in the first decade of the life, and the patient or the person may have developed slowly the foam cells, and these later they develop into the fatty sticks, then they develop into the intermediate lesions, and after in third decade of life basically there is a formation of atheroma, and you can see it basically start to occlude the lumen, and once the occlusion increases and there is a formation of fibrous cap over that, and when this occlusion is more than 75%, it will cause chest pain during the exertion or stressful conditions. So this is called stable angina, and this is basically seen after fourth decade of life, and later this atheroma may undergo the acute plaque changes, or this plaque may rupture, or it may undergo the fissuring, or there may be the formation of thrombus which result in the complete occlusion of the lumen, and that may result in the myocardial infarction or unstable angina. So if we compare the two type of plaque, that is stable plaque and unstable plaque, in the stable plaque here we can see on the left side that it is having a small lipid core, and the fibrous cap is very thick, and there is a low content of macrophages, as well as there is a low microvessel density, and we can see there is no intra-plaque hemorrhages. So no cap rupture, no superimposed thrombus is seen in case of stable plaque, whereas in case of unstable plaque we can see the large lipid core along with the thin fibrous cap and high content of macrophages and high microvessel density, and the presence of intraplaque hemorrhages, and the cap is basically ruptured, and there is a formation of superimposed thrombus over that, and these are unstable plaque, and they may lead to the unstable angina or myocardial infarction. So these are the acute plaque changes. As I said, in the early stage there is a fixed coronary obstruction, and that result in the stable angina, and this may progress into the to complete healing, or it may progress to the plaque disruption. So plaque disruption These due to the hemodynamic changes and due to various risk factors, the endothelial lining of the atheroma, it undergoes the repeated injuries which result in the formation of platelet plug or platelet aggregation over that injured endothelium, and later it will form the thrombus. And as the time goes, this formation of thrombus may result in the intraplug hemorrhages, ulceration, rupture or fissuring. And these changes, they are basically called as acute plaque changes, and this is very commonly seen in case of unstable angina and myocardial infarction. So these all together, the unstable angina, myocardial infarction and sudden cardiac death, they are called as acute coronary syndromes. So we go through the blood supply of the heart. Here we can see on the right side there is a right coronary artery which basically supplies to the right atrium, right ventricle, posterior inferior part of the left ventricle, and SA node and AV node. So this is very important that they also supply to the conduction system, that is SA node and AV node. So blockage of the right coronary artery is always associated with the bradycardias. On the left side we can see there are two important arteries. One is called left circumflex coronary artery, so it supplies to the left atrium and lateral part of the left ventricle, and another one is the left coronary artery. Left coronary artery, it supplies the anterior left ventricle, apex of the heart, and 2/3 of the interventricular septum. So these are the two arteries. One is left circumflex artery which supplies the left atrium and lateral part of the left ventricle, and another one is the left coronary artery which supplies to the anterior part of the left ventricle and apex of the ventricles. So this is the blood supply to the heart. So atherosclerosis involvement is seen in various arteries. So in case of left anterior descending branch, it is 40 to 50% of cases it is seen that this artery is usually occluded, and in around 30 to 40% cases left circumflex artery is involved, and around 15 to 20% cases it is the right coronary artery which is involved, and more than 75% of occlusion is of significant result in coronary artery disease, and the patient may experience the chest pain or anginal pain due to the exertion or stress. And when this occlusion is more than 90%, the patient will have the ischemia or chest pain even at rest. So this is the involvement of atherosclerosis. If we classify the ischemic heart disease, we can classify into these categories. First category is asymptomatic patients. Second is the chronic ischemic heart disease. Third is the sudden cardiac death. And most common conditions are the angina pectoris and myocardial infarction. In the angina pectoris, we can see the stable angina, principal angina, and unstable angina. And in the myocardial infarction, there is a transmural MI or full thickness MI, or there may be partial thickness MI, that is subendocardial MI or laminar MI. So these are the ischemic heart diseases. So we go through the causes or etiology. As we said that the stable angina, there is occlusion of 3/4 of the lumen of the artery due to the atheroma, and in this condition patient usually experience chest pain during the exertion or the psychological stress. Second one is the unstable angina. This unstable angina, as we have discussed previously, that it is due to the atheromatous plaque changes. This plaque may rupture, hemorrhage or ulcerate, and this will result in the occlusion of the artery more than 90% and result in unstable angina. Third one is the principal angina, in which it is related to the coronary vasospasm due to the release of various chemical mediators from the platelet plug or the thrombus, and that result in the coronary vasospasm of the, and this vasospasm result in the complete occlusion of the vessel, and result in transmural ischemia, and this condition is called as fringe metal angina. And the fourth condition is myocardial infarction. Same, it is also related to the acute plaque changes, that is rupture, hemorrhage, ulceration, or superimposed thrombus. So these myocardial infarction and sudden cardiac death, so these all are related to the these three conditions. They are related to the basically acute plaque changes. Another is the chronic ischemic heart disease. In this condition, progressive coronary artery occlusion lead to the chronic ischemic heart disease. So these are the few etiological findings. So if we go through the angina pectoris. So it is the paroxysmal and recurrent attack of the substernal or pericardial chest discomfort caused by the transient myocardial ischemia, and this ischemia is very transient type, and it is insufficient to induce the myocardial this myocyte death. And the pain basically it occurred due to the ischemia induced release of the adenosine and bradykinin that stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. So this pain is due to the release of these chemical mediators. So there are three important overlapping conditions as we have discussed in the previous slide, that is the stable angina, unstable angina, and fringe metal angina. So if we go through the stable angina, so it is the most common form, and it is caused by the imbalance between the coronary perfusion and the myocardial demands due to the atherosclerosis. So the pain is basically, it is deep, localized, squeezing and burning sensation, like it is seen in indigestion, and this pain usually precipitate during exertion or psychological stress. So in this condition, the heart demands are increased, and this pain is usually relieved by the rest or using the vasodilator such as nitroglycerin or calcium channel blockers. So this can give relief in the stable angina. So we go through the pathogenesis. The occlusion, as we have said in the previous slide, that the occlusion is more than 70% is required to cause the pain during the exertion. So 75% of occlusion of the lumen by the atherosclerosis, which result in the decreased coronary blood flow, and that result in the subendocardial ischemia, and this result in chest pain or stable angina. And under the ECG findings, we can see the ST segment depression due to the movement of the electric current away from the electrodes. So this is the pathogenesis of stable angina. Now coming to the second type, that is fringe metal angina. It is very uncommon form, and it is caused by the coronary vasospasm, and this vasospasm is typically occur near the existing atherosclerotic plaque, and is or a completely normal blood vessels may be involved. It is unrelated to the physical activity, heart rate or pressure. It is very commonly seen in the women and the smokers, and this condition is very common in nights or early in the morning. So fringe metal angina typically respond to the vasodilators such as nitroglycerin or calcium channel blockers. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the coronary vasospasm. So you can see the lumen is completely occluded by the spasm. So if we go through the pathogenesis, in this we can see there is a release of thromboxane A2 from the platelet or thrombus, and this thromboxane A2 is basically a chemical mediators released during the cyclooxygenase pathway of the arachidonic acid. And this thromboxane A2 is basically it is a potent vasoconstrictor and platelet aggregator. Simultaneously, the endothelin also released from the endothelial cells, and these two, the thromboxane A2 and endothelin, they together lead to the vasospasm of the coronary artery, and this result in the transmural ischemia, and this is called as fringe metal angina. And under the electrocardiogram, we can see the ST segment elevation due to the transmural ischemia. So now coming to the acute coronary syndromes, as we have said in the previous slides that the acute coronary syndromes, they are related to the unstable angina, myocardial infarction, and sudden cardiac death. So unstable angina, it is characterized by the increasingly frequency of the pain precipitated by progressively less exertion or even occurring at the rest, and it is basically, most importantly, it is caused by the plaque disruption, and there is a formation of superimposed thrombus, and this thrombus may embolize and or may result in the vasospasm. So 1/3 of the patient have the evidence of myocardial necrosis. So it is the precursor condition of myocardial infarction. So in this, we see the features of unstable plaque, which we have discussed previously. This plaque is basically is having thin fibrous cap, high lipid content, and high number of macrophages and increased vascularity, and these all can result in the erosion, rupture, and intraplaque hemorrhage or fissuring. So this is about the unstable angina. If we go through the clinical features, the chest pain may radiate to the left shoulder, arm, jaw, or neck or back. So the pain may radiate to anywhere in the body, but it is especially radiating to the shoulders, arm, jaw, neck, and back. The chest discomfort feel like tightness, squeezing, crushing, and burning sensation, and there is a shortness of the breath, and sweating is also very common, a clinical finding. If we go through the management of these condition, the most common drugs which are used are the vasodilators and the cardiac depressant. In the vasodilators, there are two important vasodilators. These are the nitrates and the calcium channel blockers, and the cardiac depressant are the calcium channel blockers and beta blockers. So these are the drugs which may relieve the patient who is suffering from the angina. So this is all about the ischemic heart disease and the angina pectoris. Thank you very much for watching this video.